In part 1, titled The Problems with the Nintendo Switch, I looked at the shortcomings of the system and what issues Nintendo should address when they go about creating their next generation Switch device. In this video, I'm going to take those issues, power and industrial design, as well as consider some new features that would expand the Nintendo Switch 2. Number 1. Power, performance, thermals and battery. In my previous video, one of the primary concerns with the Nintendo Switch was that the performance gap between the PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch was too great. While the Switch needed to output only half the pixels that the PS4 and Xbox required, it didn't have enough power to do so, having only roughly 1/5 the power of an Xbox One and 1/7 of the power of a PS4. This meant a lot of corners had to be cut when porting games from one system to the other. For the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo must consider the performance relative to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, otherwise terrible third-party ports will continue to ruin the system's reputation. Nintendo has often had a reputation for making systems that catered to the needs of its own games first, and this usually meant that the system was underpowered to keep costs of hardware down. But as games become more platform agnostic, it really does no harm for Nintendo to have hardware that doesn't butcher third-party games. And the move for PS5 and Xbox Series X to 4K resolution provides the perfect opportunity for Nintendo to do so. At 4K, the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 have 8 times the number of pixels to render as the Nintendo Switch 2 would at a resolution of 1280 by 720p. And the Switch 2 would only need around 2 teraflops of graphical horsepower to be adequately balanced against the other consoles in the market. While the Nintendo Switch could probably get away with as little as 1.2 teraflops for 720p performance, having up to 2 teraflops would allow some wiggle room for docked games that want to run at a little higher resolution. The question is, would this be possible given the current pace of mobile hardware technology? In my opinion, this is a resounding yes, at least in terms of performance in current laptop and mobile technology. Take the latest AMD Renoir APU chips for laptops. The Ryzen 4800U, used for ultra-light laptops, has a graphics score on 3D Mark of around 6000, putting this in the league of a GTX 1050 Ti or a little better than a PS4. In terms of power, the 4800U uses 15 watts, and while that is still probably a little too high, the Switch is at around 12 watts, this is certainly in the ballpark. A cut-down version of a 4800U at 10 watts, or even waiting for AMD Cezanne or Intel Tiger Lake mobile chips next year with improved performance are all options on the table. The fact is, it's definitely possible to expect a Switch 2 portable with around 6 times graphics performance by holiday 2021 or start of 2022. Hopefully Nintendo retains the same 720p resolution on the handheld so that games don't have to be cut down when ported to the system. Number 2. Industrial design. The Nintendo Switch felt like a device that was a bit behind the times when it was released. It looked a bit chunky, with very large bezels around the screen, especially when compared to tablet devices at the time. For the Switch 2, it would be nice to see a reduction of the bezels around the system that would easily shave off an inch or two of bulk. Part of the thickness of the device was due to having a fan to keep the system cool. For the Switch 2, as I've noted, the power consumption will likely be similar to the original release of the Switch, and is probably a necessary evil to retain a fan in order to improve the graphical performance. While detachable Joy-Cons gave the Switch a bit of a loose and cheap feeling, it's not really a deal breaker, and it adds to the system's appeal in being a device that's instantly accessible for multiplayer. Joy-Cons does add extra cost to the system, but again, it's unique to the Switch and a good marketing feature. I do hope that Nintendo addresses the other industrial design issues like the kickstand, the cheap plastic material, and the plastic screen. Number 3. Bluetooth. One of the glaring omissions of the Nintendo Switch was that it had no Bluetooth functionality. This is a way overdue feature that Nintendo really needs to add for the Switch 2. Bluetooth functionality doesn't only apply to headphones either, but also microphones, keyboards, mice, remotes, and many other peripherals that use Bluetooth. It's not clear whether Nintendo opted against Bluetooth due to technical reasons, such as Joy-Con communication, but adding keyboards and mice opens up the device to many new types of gaming, including PC games that play better with this control scheme. It would be fantastic to drop the Switch into the dock and start playing on a larger screen with a keyboard and mouse. And while at this point people could just opt to play on PC, there's an advantage to having a hybrid version such as this. Number 4, Stylus. A huge part of Nintendo's success was the DS and the 3DS, which introduced the concept of touch-based games. Nintendo and its third parties created popular games like Dr. Kawishima's Brain Training, Nintendogs, Cooking Mama, Art Academy, and Trauma Center that invented new and engaging ways to play. As the casual crowd grew, sales of puzzle and word games took off, and the DS was a device that really became mainstream. For the Switch 2, including a pen stylus and developing a screen to cater for both a pen and finger use would greatly increase the number of types of games available on the system. Using a pen opens the door to more games like the ones we saw on the DS and 3DS, and increases the size of the audience for the device. And by reducing the size and weight of the machine as described earlier, this would make the device easier to hold. Number 5, App Store. The last item on my wish list is a bit of a Hail Mary, but this is something I've wanted to see on consoles for a long time. The consoles all feature an online store which sells games, but it's time to include more than just games like the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. The ability to be an all-round device is what makes mobile phones and tablets so popular, useful and vital for our day-to-day needs. Ultimately, this would turn the device into a tablet with gamepad controls that could be used docked with a larger screen and with productivity applications. And in my opinion, that's not a bad place to be in. Pure gaming fans might disagree, but there's no technical reason to not support apps. Having a device that does more than gaming ensures it's being used and carried around more often. If it looks like a tablet, plays games like a tablet, it may as well be a full-fledged tablet. In conclusion, the Nintendo Switch is a fine first-generation console. Not often do companies get everything right the first time. The biggest issue right now is that the Switch is popular enough for third parties to be porting over their games from PS4 and Xbox, but the games have struggled with performance. Clearing that up has to be the number one priority. But Nintendo also needs to look at what they've left behind, such as the Stylus, which could bring back a part of the audience that loved the DS and 3DS. And they should also look to the future and think about what their console really could be. That's it for this video. If you liked the video, please click like and subscribe, and be sure to check out part 1 of this video if you haven't already done so. Thanks, and see you in the next one.